because I'm going to be talking out of this book, and you won't get a chance to see the pictures. Of course, a lot of more people.
Hare Rama
By showing mercy, Sarvabhutesu, to all living entities, Santasya, by being satisfied, Yena Kenava, somehow or other, Sarva Indriya, all the senses, Upasyantya, by controlling Cha, also. Tushyati, become satisfied. Asu, very soon. Janardana, Lord of all living entities. Translation purport by Divine Grace, H.G BhaktiSidhanta Prabhu Ki Jai. By showing mercy to all living entities, being satisfied somehow or other, and controlling the senses from sense enjoyment, one can very quickly satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardana. By showing mercy to all living entities, being satisfied somehow or other, and controlling the senses from sense enjoyment, one can very quickly satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. These are some of the ways in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be satisfied by the devotees. The first item mentioned is Yaya Sarvate Su, showing mercy to all conditioned souls. The best way to show mercy is to spread Krishna consciousness. The entire world is suffering for want of this knowledge. People should know that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original cause of everything. Knowing this, everyone should directly engage in his devotional service. Those who are actually learning, advancing spiritual understanding, should preach Krishna consciousness all over the world, so that people may take to it and make their lives successful. The word Sarvabhute Su is significant because it applies not only to human beings, but to all the living entities appearing in the 8,400,000 species of life. The devotee can do good not only to humanity, but to all living entities as well. Everyone can benefit spiritually by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. When the transcendental vibration of the Hare Krishna is sounded, even the trees, animals, and insects benefit. See, this tree out there is growing so fast that this is the reason. Everybody, the trees hearing the Mantra. Thus, one chants the Hare Krishna Mantra loudly, he actually shows mercy to all living entities. To spread the Krishna consciousness movement throughout the world, the devotees should be satisfied in all conditions. Narayana Parasarve, Nag Kushitat Vivechide, Sarva Bhagya Varga Rupesu, Api Tuyatya Darishana, Bhagavatam 6:17-28. It does not matter that a pure devotee, if he has to go to hell to preach, the Supreme Lord lives in the heart of a hog, although the Lord is in Vaikuntha. Even while preaching in hell, a pure devotee remains a pure devotee by his constant association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To attain this state, one has to control his senses. The senses are automatically controlled when one's mind is engaged in the service of the Lord. Now, this is a message that has been repeated over and over again by Srila Prabhupada, and it reiterates here that if we do this, if we actually follow these instructions, and then ultimately, even if you're preaching in hell, as many devotees have, all the way up and down the Amazon River, the darkest places in Africa, the Lord's name is heard. Lord Chaitanya wanted it in every town and village, so through the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, it's happening. So, even if you go to hell, there's mercy there. Even so, don't worry whether we go to heaven or hell. The Christians, they worry about that. And even purgatory is a halfway station. So, for the devotees, you can be in a hellish situation. In fact, the material world is nothing but hell. Prabhupada made a comment about England. And so he was asked by a reporter, Srila Prabhupada, what do you think about England as you're preaching successful here? He says, well, England is constantly in fog, so it's always a hellish planet there. In any case, Prabhupada did go to hell. He went to Bowery, and I was there. There's a place, the Bowery Mission, where they bombs these derelicts. It's not just in Delhi, but the Shanti huts are all over Punjab, and also people who are with poverty-stricken have no place to stay. So in America, there's one area, the Bowery, and Prabhupada started his preaching there. Now, it's no coincidence that he started in a very low framework. I mean, the bottom of the pits of the world is the Bowery. And so everybody's intoxicated, drunk, lying on the street, passing out, dying on the street. And so Prabhupada began his mission. And when Hare Krishna saw Prabhupada, he thought that it was like a genie out of the bottle, like Aladdin's lamp. And it was like so incongruous to see this sadhu walking the streets of the Bowery. And I walked those streets. And there's a place, the Bowery Mission, where the bums go and they get soup and they get some bread. And at the night they have a place to stay. So I went there and I stayed for the soup and for the bread. And I was going to stay for the night, just to see what it's like, what the Bowery Mission is all about. And I didn't know Prabhupada, of course, was there at that time. I saw him walking on the street. This is in 66, near Tompkins Square Park. I was living there. And so I could just see that these people, they have a good heart. And Prabhupada, when he was walking into this 94 Bowery Avenue, it's called AIR, a Artisan Residence. These are flats, big, huge things, a big warehouse flats. Artists were living there and making big studios at that time. So Prabhupada went to hell, and the results, of course, are well known. The history has shown us a great advantage Prabhupada had by taking that whole step. Allen Ginsberg describes that in one video, that ultimately Swami made a very important move by going down to the pits where the affinity, the acid heads, the marijuana, the junkies, everybody was there. And I was there. And it was like the place, the end place. It shifted from West Greenwich Village to the East Village. And so there was the beginning of the movement. And I walked right straight through that park on my way uptown. So, about going to hell, that years ago, Rameshwar, at that time Maharaj, he made a statement. He said that if we don't deliver these magazines and these books, what happens is that these people will again take an animal birth. They're going to go back into the 8 million for all these species of life. And so if that happens, then they're devoid of the mercy of Lord Chaitanya in these 10,000 years, and ultimately they go right back into the in-breath of non-Vishnu. So that means millions and millions of years, these people will not see the light of day. So, in other words, the books and the magazines are all that important, that if we get these books out, as we are doing, hundreds of thousands, millions now are taking the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So it continues, and it's supposed to be every town and village on the planet. So that means there's a lot of work to be done. And in the course of preaching, and Prabhupada said the answer to, if you're living in a condition that's hellish, then ultimately by chanting, by following the program, ultimately you're living in by coming anyway. I remember when I first got here, I had typhoid, malaria, and jaundice all together. And so that's hell. You experience that. That's a tough one. And so losing weight, trying to make, do devotional service with breathing, so I could just break flat out for many weeks. In any case, these are the austerities, and there are many austerities that we perform in the way of devotional service. But ultimately, the end result is how can we spread this movement, and how can we develop the world at large to accept the holy name. And then it's all based here, as it said in this purport. It's based without desire. So we have to function somehow in this body without at least working towards a position where we don't have any desires. That's practically an impossibility. So who does not have desires? people in the West, anywhere outside their movement, they're full of desires. There's nothing but walking desires around this planet. So devotees have an option. They either go sense gratification, or they can go and preach and spread the word of the holy name. So there are many ways to spread the name, and I'm going to illustrate one way that what I use. It's a book here that I got, and now we're getting into the end of this chapter, and so the Prabhu comes into the next chapter. He's the second son of Swayambhavananda, and so his narration begins the genealogy of the next step. So, but the final conclusion here in this chapter, as we go to the final end of it, is that the way to satisfy the Supreme Lord is first to please the spiritual master. And if we violate and offend the spiritual master, some devotees have done in the past, ultimately there's no safety. There's no way to save oneself from that offense. Gur aparada, it's even like above radharani, the offense goes so high. And so what we are cautious with is how to first please the spiritual master. If we can do that, that's one thing that's a gift that takes us right straight back home back to Godhead. So, with no other, this is a book that was launched already. I'm just going to take stories out of it, and I'll show the stories, and then I'll just tell the story, because this is my attempt, in some way, of spreading Krishna consciousness through pictures. And a couple of my devotees, senior godbrothers, they say, you've been here for 35 years and you don't know Hindi? For God's sake, your life is half wasted. And so I said, well, you preach in words, I preach in pictures. So this is a book that came out recently, it's Acharya, and it's based on Prabhupada's entire life. So I'm bringing this book now because I just want to tell the stories and show the pictures. And so when Prabhupada began the movement, his early life was centered around preaching in Delhi, going into tea stalls, and finally, making his way to America. We know the history, but it's never been told in a pictorial form. And I've taken stories by which nobody knows yet, stories about Prabhupada that have not been told, and some stories are like miracles. Prabhupada performed many miracles. The first one, when he was told by a reporter, "What are the miracles you performed, Swami?" And so right next to him was all the devotees shaved up, and he said, "These are my miracles." So the miracles are amongst us, we're all miracles. And so there was a time, I'll go through one by one. In Jhansi in 1954, he was dancing and jumping around, playing Mridanga, going crazy. He had this garland of kadamba flowers. That time, Prabhupada Acharya, his first disciple, was asking Prabhupada the next day that he couldn't break through. Prabhupada was in tears and dancing, bouncing off the walls. He was like in total ecstasy. Here I am, everything up, And so next morning he asked Prabhupada, "Hey, what happened? I mean, you got this garland. Where did that come from?" And the aroma of that garland permeated the whole creation, and it smelled so beautiful. And so, well, last night, Krishna garlanded with that kadamba flower garland, and I tried to touch his feet. I couldn't make it. I couldn't grab it. Disappeared. And I couldn't control it after I lost it. And so Prabhupada didn't lose it too often, but when he did, he really lost it. And then there's times when I saw Prabhupada walking, a morning walk with the woman, and we got a little late. And so by the time we got there, Prabhupada was already walking ahead. And so he was walking very fast. But I looked closely, but he wasn't touching the ground. He was gliding going across the park. There was the Santa Monica Park near the ocean. And some devotees have seen that, and the halo of Prabhupada showed that once in a while. He apologized. He was sitting on the yasasa here, and he lost it and went into a trance. It happened 2 times in the class we were going on. And so Prabhupada, he's gone. He was like, he's there, he's not there. And so Antaduta started at kirtan. And so that kirtan broke the framework. So that broke the train of thought. And so he was criticized for it. And later he asked Prabhupada, is that okay? I give kirtan, because we didn't know what to do. Yes. I'm sorry, it won't happen again. But Prabhupada apologizes for going into these aesthetic trances. Okay. Now, the whole hippie movement, there's a couple of drawings here I just showed. Can't see that one. But I'm sorry, those in the back are not going to be able to relish this, but anyway, the book is still available. So here's Prabhupada with Allen Ginsberg. And if you can see it, I can see it. But he's dancing, and this is at Avalon Ballroom. And at the Avalon Ballroom is when the whole thing started, all these different big rock groups. It was the first time Janis Joplin was heard. The brother Moby Grateful Dead, Jerry Garcia, all these big names that happened in the West. Okay, they got to start, and they were all performing at this Avalon Ballroom. Prabhupada was a keynote figure. And so he walked in, and he transformed that place, and it sounded at kirtan uproarious. It was like everybody, all the hippies were dancing and shouting and practically rolling on the floor. So anyway, this is the beginning of our movement, and it started with the hippie movement. And so it just happened to coincide. The hippie movement began in Prabhupada's country. And so there was a reason for that. Because people at that time, myself included, were not receptive to what was taking place in the world. Vietnam was underway, that fighting was going on. And so the fighting in Vietnam was a reason that Prabhupada talked about why that war was being fought. He says it was for two reasons. One, to kill the blacks, one, to kill all the hippies. So in order to stop the hippie movement, they shaved everybody up, sent them out to Vietnam, and they were slaughtered. And so, that's another one. In any case, I had another vision on how things were going on in the material world. And one time he was questioned about his plan to take over the world. Rameshwar was asking him on the roof of the 55th Street huge skyscraper we had at one moment. He looked at everybody, all the sannyasis over there, and he hesitated for a moment. He said, I can't tell you. No. In other words, it hasn't unfolded yet. So the whole spiritual movement that's about to take place is still in the process. That actually, through Lord Chaitanya's mercy, those 10,000 years are going to be really important for mankind. And the more we do our preaching, the quicker it'll happen that people in the West will start understanding more about Srila Prabhupada, about the whole movement at large. Here's another episode. This, if you can see it, Prabhupada is doing the arti to a spiritual master, H.G BhaktiSidhanta. And as he's doing that, he's asking for a bowl. He's making it. So he goes to this group of nobles standing next to him. Probably bowl. So he's got to put the water someplace. So as soon as he said bowl, they all started jumping up and down. Hurry, bowl. Now he didn't say it. He probably looked at it, but I'll let you out. We've got no hope here. And so he performed 3 miracles, one after another, on the spot. Now, Saswati Maharaj and the Leela Amrita avoided all the miracles. He said it was too controversial. I got them all the miracles that he didn't put there, I put the draw here. And so here's one that happened, 3 miracles in one spot. This is Atlanta, Georgia. Prabhupada done the asasana. And you get off and he did the arti, and there's a tosi pot about from here to that pillar. Everybody's dancing, hurry, go. He takes the water and throws it into the tosi pot without spilling a drop. It went about 10 feet and went directly and went around the pot without touching tosi. Then he started to blow a conch shell. It was a bad one, it was a small conch shell. So the devotee tells the story, Radhikant Das, who passed away. He said, I can't believe that this old man, he was half believing that Prabhupada was really who he says he is. He was like in the early days. People had doubts. Okay. So Prabhupada picked up that conch shell. And It was a bad one. It was mistakenly given. So Prabhupada blew it 3 times perfectly, very solidly sounded. And then he gets on the Vyasasana. He performs the 3rd miracle. So there's a mridanga way out of tune. And Prabhupada started playing mridanga. Boom, 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 boom. By the time within a second, he tuned up the mridanga by playing it. Can anybody do that? I mean, the tune of the that's not easy. Then here's a story. This happened in San Francisco. Okay, so what happened here, that Prabhupada, we were all invited to a big Hindu club in San Francisco during 1975 Rath Yatra. And at that time, there was a big feast held by this club, and the devotees were honored, and Srila Prabhupada was on stage. So, as Prabhupada was speaking to this Hindu club, he was saying, don't fall sway to the dollar bill. Because everybody was enjoying the comforts of America, all the Indians were there, especially for the dollar bill. Okay, so the devotees were in the front row, and then the back, behind the devotees, were the mostly Bengalis from all over India. Were the ladies. They were carrying on a heavy conversation with each other, and the loud noise coming from them was impossible to hear Prabhupada. Then their kids were running all over the place, making more noise. In the back were all men, and they were making even more noise. So the conglomerate of all that noise, volume of talk that they were giving, completely obliterated everything Prabhupada was saying. So I was there. And so Prabhupada's tears, but not yet. So then he's talking about don't be swayed by the economy, don't lose your heritage, don't give up your birthright. You're born in India, it's the greatest birth that you can have. There's no better place to take birth. Bharatvarsha. Then, up comes the minister or the guy in charge of the club. He garlands Prabhupada with dollar bills. To add insult to injury, this was like too much. And Prabhupada's tears were shooting out of his eyes and hitting like devotees in the front row, 10 feet away. That's what that picture is. And so it's a statement that Prabhupada was so hurt by. That here Indians who are migrating to America, they're giving up their taking meat, fish, eggs. I come from a family like that. And I go back to my family and I can't even tolerate it. And so they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear, any preaching at all, so there's no hope. If somebody asks one question, then you've got an invite to actually begin the philosophy. If they cut you off and they don't want to hear it, you can't change your lifestyle. Okay, here's a funny story. This is Prabhupada talking to a monkey. But here Prabhupada inside down the room at Radha Damodar, and he's talking to a monkey outside. And he's talking to a monkey talk. However a monkey talks. He's carrying on a conversation with a monkey. Now, monkeys don't normally talk to humans, but this time he was talking, and there was a very clear dialogue between the two, between Prabhupada and the monkey. Outside the Jamuna, Devi does, she's listening to this conversation. So the monkey's listening and understanding what Prabhupada's saying, and Prabhupada's talking to the monkey, and he's understanding the monkey. And so, then after the monkey ran off, normally that particular monkey always stayed to get something to eat, wait for the shot. This time he just ran off. Okay, she asked, Prabhupada, you were talking to a monkey? That's really amazing. And so, what did he want? What did he say? Well, he asked when prasad going to be ready. And so then I told him that you misbehaved in your last life, and so now you're a monkey. And so there was a whole controversy that I agree with started with an article back to God about the Goswamis taking birth as monkeys. Now Prabhupada corrected that. He said, no, it's not just Goswamis, it's everybody. And that's why there's so many monkeys. Who do you think these monkeys are? The people have made some kind of offense in that, they're taking monkey or hot body. Now, Prabhupada mentioned this about preaching to the hogs, that Krishna is in the heart of every living entity, even in the hogs and the animals. So, it doesn't hurt to speak to anybody about Krishna consciousness because it goes a long way. Now, that monkey ran off because Prabhupada says, okay, don't worry, this life you're a monkey, but next life you're going back home back to God. Now go, jump. And so the monkey ran off without a prashad. So he kept coming back. Ultimately, he wasn't cured of the disease. So don't be a monkey. Don't make the offenses. Vaishnava opera, Guru opera, any opera, ultimately it's a curse because it'll take you down. You don't want to lose the benefit of Lord Chaitanya's mercy for these 10,000 years. And we have to do something in any way we can do to preach and deliver the message Prabhupada gave us. We have to do it. I'll just do one more. This is a scene that happened, I'm sure back then. Okay, in any case, what happened, Shama Sundar was driving this old Hudson 49 car. And so he's driving that car, and they come to a place in the road where there's a washed out bridge, and you can't go across the bridge. They're on their way to see the lead Rashad, Dr. Mill's youngest son. Okay, so Prabhupada stopped the car. Okay, you guys get up. Ramananda, everyone, you get up. And whoever else is in the back seat. Big heavy guys. So too much weight. You gotta get up. Okay, Shama Sundar, back it up. He backs up the car. Okay, I'm going to. I want you to go as fast as you can. And so Prabhupada's in the front seat. He's there driving. And Prabhupada, faster, faster. And they take off and they go flying right over the bridge. And land on the other side perfectly. Perfect landing. It was like Prabhupada, very daring. And so he climbed up the Victoria Memorial in Calcutta. And they probably were very daring, one devotee said. And he said, yes, I'm still very daring. You know, to spread this movement all over the world. But it wasn't easy because ultimately he was going against the tide. Maya is so strong. So only a pure devotee can take the position that Prabhupada had and gave to the world and changed so many people's lives. We're like examples of all that change that took place. And it will take place. It hasn't stopped. It's going to keep increasing because the preaching is going on. And so when Shama Sundar is driving that car, he's thinking of some movie actor at that time, Steve McQueen, who was driving like that in some movie. And so that's in the picture. And he also, he tells another story. In the first days in San Francisco, and there was no money. There was no way you could pay the bills, and they were having a credit eviction from their apartment to the temple. And they were feeding the hippies because they come and crash in and they have nothing but misery because they're on acid trips. Okay, so they come out of their house one early morning, 8 Ashton, they're right smack center hippie man. And so they look up in the sky, and all this sky is full of $100 bills floating down, coming down from the sky, from nowhere. They couldn't trace it where they were coming from. $100 bill floating down. And so there they were, all over the street, $100 bills. And so they gathered up these $100 bills and they had to pay the rent. I asked Malati about how much was there. Well enough to pay the rent, but there was quite a collection of $100 bills. So they understood something very, very mystical was taking place. Whatever Prabhupada turned his attention towards was successful. There was nothing he couldn't do. So Shama Sundar was riding in this cloud, being with Prabhupada. And Hayagriva was told by Prabhupada, he told me, Hayagriva told me, he said, Prabhupada one time said, you and I are both writers. So if we work together, we can write together and travel together. Hayagriva didn't take it up. And so there are so many devotees that had all that opportunity. And Shama Sundar was one. He said, I couldn't believe the association. When I was near Prabhupada, it was hot. When I get near Prabhupada, it was cool. So ultimately, Prabhupada's body temperature was very cooling. And also, anything about Prabhupada was unusual. I remember in a small room, in Prabhupada's room here in his last days. I was 4 months in there, listening, being in part of the kirtan, it was observing Prabhupada the whole time. He was fully conscious right up to the last moment, right to the last words are used. And so everything about Prabhupada was unworldly. He was from another realm. And so those around Prabhupada, some like Sasri Maharaj, he backed out of it because he got too familiar. Being close to a pure devotee, he's in a human body, and so he made a mistake that as being like something mundane. And so some devotees, they moved away. A lot of devotees left the movement. And Prabhupada, of course, he said that it's not unusual that happens, or unusual everybody stays. If I told you in the beginning that you have to go through, you would not join the movement in the beginning. I was told by an astrologer some 20 years ago, already like 20 years in the movement, he said, whatever you do, don't join a spiritual organization, it'll kill you. So, but to it, it's already 20 years of movement. And so, but the opportunity we have, and that's why I showed these pictures. The book is still available. I'm not trying to sell it, but there are more copies of it. And I'm going to do a whole series of books. And in fact, I gave them up to make a Murphy's a problem. I've done so many doing that. I did these panels with Samadhi. I helped design the Samadhi. And I've had a whole history of helping here in glorifying Prabhupada. And so I thought that at the very beginning that if I could do something to help glorify Prabhupada, then ultimately the pathway back home opens up. And so I just plead with all of you that glorify Srila Prabhupada. Read his books. Take it to the world and give it to everybody who contact. Because like I was on the street in San Diego, this devotee was just here. And he told me, he told Rupas, everybody has to get a magazine. They can't get by without getting a back of magazines or get a book. And so I was lining everybody up, walking, give everybody back up. And the line would walk by, and I'd do another line back up, and then I'd turn back and collect money. And so it kept going on like that. I just made a record. The first time I went out on book distribution. And so he was responsible for it. He said that don't let anybody goes by, they miss the chance in this mortal time is 10,000 years. I mean, they, like I said, they go way back into millions of lifetimes in the interest of others. So if we think like that, we think and understand that the importance of this movement, and it's the only way to become desireless. Now, everybody has desires. Everybody, they want a new car. I had an uncle. He worked his whole life in the factory. And ultimately, he retired. And his sense gratification was buying a new Cadillac. So every year, he'd buy a new Cadillac. He'd swap in the old new Cadillac and bought a new one. He said, what kind of a joke is that? What pleasure to get driving around in this big thing. And so some people have very strange desires. Desires, even perverted desires. And so desire is the thing that builds the whole creation. It's all based on our desires. And here in this purport, Prabhupada saying, cut it off completely. It means no desire for family, friendship. You go through the opportunity you have in the family. Grihastha life, if it's congenial to spiritual life, it's a perfection. It's an easy way of going back to God. But if it takes you into a pool of desires, Prabhupada said it's like the sheer death for spiritual life. That means the more desires, Grihastha generally, if he ever moves, he understands how difficult his life is because it's human. It just pours all over you. You don't want to even try, but just get so many things. So I had a big studio downtown. I just gave it away. Lakhs and lakhs and lakhs of material, just give it away. And so, the more simple you can keep it, there's a famous American kiss, keep it simple, stupid. So, if we don't, we are stupid. So the more we simplify and regulate our lives, regulation, what Prabhupada says, is the basis of Krishna consciousness. The more we're regulated, the simpler we approach Krishna consciousness, the easier it is to be desireless. And so desireless means exactly that. No desires. No desires at all. And so that's hard. Actually, the purifying process brings that ability to do that. So if you tell that to a karmi, he just would not understand it, be desireless. Okay, that's the basis of the whole, actually, in the end of this chapter. That, when the sons of Prajetas are hearing all this, they were meant to be like in the underwater, with their eyes all up, coming out, burning the trees. And so they're performing themselves all these austerities to approach married life. So if you're in that process of approaching married life, I recommend don't do it. It's like a whole waste of time. I look back and think back to my life. I've been married. I still have my wife. And there's a secret, I mentioned this before, but it's really funny, that if you want to be successful in materials, you have to life. There's one key ingredient, and that is give your wife or give each other a lot of space. So it's very important that you can't crowd down on the couple have to allow each other some freedom. Okay, so allowing freedom and space is very important. My wife was in LA and I'm here in Verdun. And so there can't be more space. And I'm very happy, and she's very happy. So space is very important. A lot of space. And then it's all in memory. Actually, your husband life goes by in a flash. I can hardly see her face. I know I was married once. And the memories had a brother with Alzheimer's, and he lost everything. And so, when your memory starts to go, ultimately, these are the signs of old age that creeping in. And so, you're young, you've got a lot of vitality, you got a lot of vigor, you're going to preach, you're going to do a lot, you're going to conquer the world, but it doesn't last forever. That vitality slowly dissipates and your memory goes with it. And so, I forgot most of the slokas I learned. And just unfortunately, time goes on and you do the best you can. So figure out a way. Everybody has their own individual qualities. Everybody's perfect in something. And so whatever you do it to the best of your ability. And ultimately, that's pure devotional service. I can see it. You take something, whatever it is, doesn't matter, clean the floor, lead worship, whatever we do. If you do it to the full satisfaction, and you do it as wonderfully and purely as possible, ultimately, your approach to purity is already on the way. I've been on the altar 35 years, and so I keep finding new ways to do things that I didn't think of before. I was the first one to put a flower in Brother Anna's hand, and she's offering a Christian. It was an empty hand for at least 15 years. She had nothing in her hand. So I just got the flower. Now every day there's flowers everywhere. And so it used to be that there was the deity. Now when we see the deities, they're covered in flowers or opulence. The most opulent temple there is in Verdun, for sure. And so, but in the morning, it's very sweet. And when you're on the altar, it's different than being outside looking in, because now you're inside and Chris is looking at you. And so you have to be on your toes and don't make any offenses. And the first day I did, I brand new, the first time on the altar, I'm told to develop my relationship with the deity, so I started to do that. And so it happened. I walked in and I saw Krishna. You got to turn left to get in and see Krishna, Radharani, Radharani. And I was told to make an offering, so we're showing me, teaching me how to make an offering. So the plates were there, and the shot was ready. And so this devotee said, stop, there was no word. So he motioned me to sit down. There was no seat. And then there was one by the table. I started to go for it. I kept thinking, and so I didn't touch it. And then I realized it's Radharani's seat, so I backed off. And I got up and I walked around to get my own cushion in. And so as soon as I did that, I already made the offense by just the gesture, by not thinking. You have to be so careful, especially on the altar. You got to be very careful every time you get on the altar, whatever you do. And so I got up and I walked around. All of a sudden, the whole thing changed. It wasn't Krishna stone black. It was Krishna face to face. And so then I'm a bit shocked. This is like, Now, a lot of devotees have had darshan. It happens in Vrindavan quite a bit. Not unusual. So Krishna is not stone. He's pretending to be, and he's very much present on all the altars. So, all of a sudden I smelled smoke. Now, I'm thinking that I made the offense, and now I realize it, and now I'm going to be burnt to ashes, because the look Krishna gave me was, okay, you're dead, man. You're going to be burned alive. I smell smoke. Now, what's going on? So, and the curtain was on fire. It never happened before, it never happened since. So that day, the first day of the altar, the curtain caught on fire. And so I thought it was me, I thought I was burning up. And it wasn't me, it was the curtain. I looked back and saw, I put the fire out. It got too close to the heat. It never happens. And then it all vanished. So the moral of the story is this, that be very careful, because walking down the street of Vrindavan, Krishna can manifest at any time, any way, any shape, any form. It could be a monkey. It could be a dog. You got to be careful not to offend any living entity, even the mosquitoes, unless they attack you. You cannot kill a mosquito. So what to speak of anything bigger? Now, many devotees have these wonderful experiences, and they've had close calls. Where then, now this is happening. I'm looking face to face with the Supreme Lord. Okay, I don't tell that story a lot, but there's a reason for it. And so I started chanting the Hare Krishna, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, I'm chanting the Maha Mantra to protect myself from Krishna. Now I'm really in trouble. So what can I do more to be offensive? And so I stopped chanting, and I started begging, I started crying, because, your hair stands up, everything happens. And so this happens to many devotees in Vrindavan, in any place, along with deity worship. So the deities are here, they're offering themselves, they're giving mercy. And so every day is different. Every day, for me, 35 years doing the very same thing over and over again. It's different every single day. And so the mood changes, Radharani much different, Krishna's mood different, but always reciprocation. The deities will speak to you when you have a realization, they'll confirm it. Right away. As fast as you have the realization, they'll come that way. And so, the bottom line of all of this, and Prabhupada said, ultimately, the graduation exercise is the time of death. So, many of my goddaughters have died already with smiles on their face. I remember when Gauri Das was left years ago, she smiled, and the doctor said, you have 1 hour to live. Any desires? No desires. You get to that stage, in the ultimate last end of it all, you have no desires. And then, ultimately, your pathway back home is guaranteed. So, she said that, no desires, 1 hour later, she was gone. And so, it was just like, and when Krishna Babaji left his body, there's a little story, I've got to tell a story, it's very funny. Okay, I made the little birthday of his guru, H.G BhaktiSidhanta. A group of us went to his place. He was at the Chaitanya Gaudiya near the bus station. And we listened to Prabhupada's godbrother, who was a pure devotee. His kinship, Krishna Babaji. Okay, he was thinking, if I can go to the underground, I'll go. And so he was deliberating on that idea. We came and I gave him, presented to him, put on the front of the bed. He said he looked at that merchant and thinks it's our Guru Maharaj. The one who told him about Bengali, that your Guru Maharaj is here. He came here especially to bless you. And he started crying. He's throwing tears that come out of his eyes, bathing that deity of H.G BhaktiSidhanta with his tears, and chanting all these mantras. And finally, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. When he chanted, it was like this leprechaun chanting. It was like always laughing. He asked any question, and Krishna Das was always the same. Hare Krishna. Maha Mantra. So when he understood it was his Guru Maharaj had come to him, it was a confirmation about his ability to see underground and live in his last moments. And so, and he went up with 2 hands, he just blessed the whole group. Hare Krishna. And when anybody, pure devotee does that, it came out of Prabhupada 2 times. So that means you're getting the full mercy that knocked me over, knocked everybody else in the room. Then this guy, who was translating, asked Babaji, "Will you take that Murti Guru to Nandram?" He said, "Yes," and again, "Hare Krishna." And then again, all that virtue came pouring out. Now, we have the opportunity, by associating with the pure devotees, with Srila Prabhupada, and these books, all the different leelas and all the memories that the devotees are giving about Prabhupada are very important, because when the other part, Henry, he asked a question to Prabhupada about glorifying Prabhupada. He said, "No, you glorify Krishna." But then he said to Prabhupada, "But then what about later? Everybody want to know who started this movement." And so it was okay. So the first movement was made of Prabhupada. And now it doesn't matter. We can glorify Prabhupada till the sheep come home. And that means we can go on forever because glorification will never finish. So when we read Bhagavatam, we get purification. When we glorify the Lord, we get purification. We glorify Srila Prabhupada, we get even more. So I just end with that. There's a brand new view of Prabhupada's life here. And there's like 300 stories. And each one is different things that I experienced. One more is that he was coming to our Dalsky, that means Fate in America, was the first American theistic exhibition. And Prabhupada kept wanting more dioramas to take place. And we had to change the body. And so it first was a small model. And Prabhupada was looking at that model. And our leader at that time, he asked, "Would you like that for your room?" Now, Prabhupada didn't have to remember he's not his body. Didn't have to know his body changes. And so when he was asked if you wanted it for your room, he summed up the whole philosophy in 2 words. "My room? What room?" He had palaces all over the world, but there was no room that he would claim as his room. And as he was they were doing a Guru Puja in the front room, and there was a packed solid around Prabhupada. And so I tried to look over there, get up on the chair, look over the heads of everybody. And all of a sudden, the whole thing opens up, Moses in the Red Sea. Prabhupada's come right out, very great. Prabhupada face to face. Never happened before. I suddenly got, momentum. I never get to see Prabhupada close up. And so Prabhupada picked up on everything anybody was thinking. And that's another story. ESP story. In any case, when he looked me in the eyes, that's in there also. The whole thing changed. A complete scourge, completely changing the whole system. 10 seconds. Prabhupada would do that. And many devotees, I asked many Prabhupada disciples, and many had that experience that Prabhupada would get that eye contact and ultimately completely change their life. And so, when Prabhupada came through the Dalsky, there was many different, there was like a lot of devotees were in anxiety about it. And they put all the garbage out in the back room. Prabhupada went straight to it. Ultimately saw all our articles. And so he was able to pinpoint, and whenever there was a deviation, he saw it. And so I asked a question, and he asked me. I'm brand new devotee, and I had to go to ask Prabhupada a question through the mind. And so I asked Prabhupada, "Okay, Srila Prabhupada, I'm just going to try this and see if you can read this." And so I said, "Srila Prabhupada, you established a movement here, but I've been around artists my whole life. I've never met as many people that are so crazy as I meet here. There's so much backbiting, fighting, criticism. What's the reason?" In the early days, there was a lot of that because we're pioneers. There was a lot of rough edges still. So Prabhupada said, "Yes, you did like that." Moved his head back and forth, gesture, "I hear you." He said, "Wait and see." And so I waited, and 2 weeks later I understood all the senior men, all our leaders, were not chanting around. They carried this little bead bag as a handle. And so there was no rounds coming out, it was just a show. so that was the root cause of the prophet talked about it. The main reason we're hindered, our movement is held back, is because we're not following. Our senior men are not chanting, they're not following the program. And so, in order to be blessed, in order to follow the regular principles and do the chanting, in order to, you have to do that in order to make the connection with the prophet's obligation. I'll take you all back home. Now, one more story there is that one Putra, he was the first French sannyasi, and he passed away. He left the movement, became degraded, he was all offenses, breaking all regular principles. So he was about ready to die, and so he lived in a coma for many days. And finally, the doctors are just waiting, he's going to die in a minute. And so he looks, all of a sudden he sits up out of the coma. Prabhupada, you come. And so Prabhupada came to him. This is years after Prabhupada left. So he came to him, and ultimately that's what Prabhupada meant by saying, I will come back to all of you. The fact is that you're all going back home, back to God. I have the back door key. So Prabhupada gets in the back door. Who goes in the front door? My dad said, I don't know. But we got the back door. So we're able to get back and go looking for a doctor through the back door. But he woke up out of his dead coma, and he saw Prabhupada. Prabhupada, okay. Another story was a girl that shot in the mouth twice. Shubhangi's daughter was a romance tangled by one crazy boy, shot her and killed herself. And so we're outside MET, and so the car is waiting to take the body to Jamuna. And there's police because there was a shooting. And so I'm standing right next to the girl's father. And so he's standing there, and I'm standing next to him. He says he saw Prabhupada walk by him, came around to the front. He said, no worries, I'll take it from here. And so that's Prabhupada again in a spiritual form, manifesting himself right there, right in front of all of us. I didn't see it, but he did. So Prabhupada will be here to take us back to God. But we have to be ready. So in other words, if we don't follow the principle of chanting around, the connection is not solid. So we're bound by that agreement that if we take initiation, we're going to do that. We're going to follow regular principles, and we're going back. That's that. So, and there's no question about it. Anybody who raises a question and thinks it doesn't work, Prabhupada said that in LA, I was there. Dina Bandhu wrote about it. He said that Prabhupada, at the end of the kirtan, because the kirtan was uproarious, it was like breaking the boundaries of the universe. It was so uproarious. And Prabhupada after said, you know who's here? Lord Shiva, Narada, Bhagavan. And they were all laughing. Why? And they were all laughing because the lectures and Yavana were dancing and chanting holy name. I think it's so funny. So whenever the chanting goes on, you can still see this. I mean, if you get eyes to see it, ultimately the demigods come in for a landing. They want to see what's going on. In the last moments when Prabhupada was on the planet, in that room, I was there. And I get a sense that there was all this heavy energy above our heads that ultimately it wasn't just devotees in that room, but the higher beings, the demigods came to see Prabhupada lead. It was very tangible, very solid, heavy energy above us. And so, can't see it, but it was packed. And the devotees were chanting, and the kirtan was going on, and I thought Prabhupada was going to stay. And finally, one guy came around banging him down, he's gone, Prabhupada left. And so the energy, just like that, it all dissipated. Prabhupada's movement started and his institution began. And so in other words, a whole complete changeover. Prabhupada left. His last words were, Hare Krishna. And that was to stay in the God and stay on this planet. So we are blessed. We have the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, we have the mercy of Prabhupada, we have the deities. We have everything. There's nothing that we can desire more. We have everything within the framework of this Krishna Balaram temple. One devotee never left. He was a very famous cook here. And so, in his example, everything is here. We never have to go outside the gate. Everything is here. Krishna is here. The deities have everything. So, take advantage of it. Shiva Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions or any last minute? Any last one? Hare Krishna.